before you to be sworn. Would you take an oath on the Bible?
Yes, certainly. Just excuse my voice a little bit. It's
That's all right.
problems.
Would you just hold the Bible and repeat after me? I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give in this royal commission
that the evidence I shall give in this royal commission
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you. Take a seat. Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Mr. Toole, will you state your full names, please?
Vincent Joseph Toole.
Do you have a copy to hand of your statement dated 10 July 2015?
Yes, I do.
Are there any amendments or corrections you wish to make to the statement?
No.
Do you confirm the statement to be true and correct?
Yes.
I tender the statement, Your Honour.
Mr. Toole's statement will be Exhibit 2923.
Now, Mr. Toole, as I understand it, you were baptised as a Jehovah's Witness in 1972, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
How old were you then?
I was born in 1948, so probably 23, 24.
And how did you come to be a Jehovah's Witness?
I moved into a unit with someone who was having a Bible study. I'd been brought up quite religiously. I'd attended a religious boarding school for 5 years prior to that, but after I left school, I basically stopped attending church. And later on, when I moved into this unit, this man was studying. I'd never really read a Bible before.
Mr. Toole, sorry to interrupt you. I'm just looking for a short answer. So you were introduced through someone you were sharing?
Yes, and I studied and was satisfied this was the truth, and I wanted to dedicate my life to serve God.
Thank you. And you were appointed an elder, as I understand it, in 1977, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And as I understand it, between being baptized and being appointed an elder, typically there would be no formal full-time training that someone would go through before being appointed an elder?
No formal training, no.
Yes. So it would be through involvement in the various activities of the congregation and the teaching and so on, etc.
No tertiary education or anything like that. It was just involvement in the church, application and involvement as such.
Yes. And you were a circuit overseer from 1980 to 1989, is that right?
Yes.
And from 1989 you commenced working at the branch headquarters, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And would it be right to refer to that as Bethel?
Yes, that's another term.
And that term is also used to refer to the world headquarters in Brooklyn, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, when you commenced working at branch headquarters, is it then that you commenced your legal studies?
Yes, not long after I arrived there.
Yes. And did the branch committee or did the Jehovah's Witnesses then sponsor your legal studies?
Yes.
And in 1993, you completed those studies and were admitted as a solicitor, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And since then, you've done legal work for Jehovah's Witness Australia or Watchtower and Bible and Tract Society Australia on a voluntary basis, is that
Yes,
right?
that's correct.
Yes. And since 1995, you have also had your own legal practice under the name Vincent Toole Solicitor.
Yes, that's correct.
And that legal practice, does that do independent work outside of Jehovah's Witness work, or do you only do Jehovah's Witness work through that practice?
Primarily just Jehovah's Witness work, but I've done work for my family and other people.
Yes. But am I to understand you don't run it as a commercial law practice?
Not as a commercial practice, no.
And since 2010, as I understand it, you've had oversight of the legal department in Australia, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So you were involved in the legal department, am I right, since 1989 and had oversight since 2010?
That's correct.
And I take it then you also live at Bethel,
Yes, I do.
and your daily needs are provided for as a member of the worldwide order of special full-time servants of Jehovah's Witnesses, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. In much the same way that Mr. Spinks described yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
And if I can refer to your statement and starting at paragraph 13.
Paragraph 13.
Yes. You say all elders serving in congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses throughout the world have been directed to contact the legal department in their local branch as soon as they learn of an allegation involving child sexual abuse. So am I to understand that there's a uniform process set out which applies throughout the world?
Subject to the fact, of course, that many branches mightn't have a legal department, but they would contact the branch there. But in Australia, we do have a legal department.
Yes. And that process, which is applicable throughout the world, that's determined by the governing body.
Well, it's a general direction throughout the world, as I understand.
Yes, and it's a general direction throughout the world determined by the governing body.
Well, as far as I understand, it's a direction that elders have been given.
Yes, but Mr. Toole, you seem to be trying to avoid what I understand to be quite well accepted, which is that it's the governing body that determines that direction.
That's what I understand, yes.
Yes. And that's typical, is it, of all Jehovah's Witnesses policies and procedures? That is, they're determined by the governing body and made applicable throughout the world.
Yes, the general policy would be determined by the governing body, but the application of it in the local setting would depend on the branch committee applying it to the relevant things in their local area.
Well, yes, whether a policy is actually followed in practice is a separate question, but dealing with the setting of what the practice is supposed to be, that's set by the governing body.
That's what I understand.
Yes. And coming to the question of responses to child sexual abuse allegations specifically, the Australia branch then follows the guidelines of the governing body, is that right?
The guidelines, but they will apply it in any way that needs to be adjusted in the for the local area.
Well, let's just be clear on that. The particular application may vary from case to case, is that right?
Yes.
But that application is intended to be within the parameters of the policy or procedure itself, is that right?
Yes, I'd agree with that.
And it's the case, is it not, that the Australia branch office will not itself set any practice or policy to apply normatively unless it's been approved by the governing body?
In terms of policy, they will adjust it to the local circumstances. So, for example, if there was no legal department in Australia, for example, well, that direction wouldn't apply, so they'd have to adjust it to whatever the local situation was.
Well, there wouldn't then be a direction from the governing body that the legal department should be contacted. In a country where there was no legal department, the direction from the governing body, which the branch would then set or apply, would be that the branch office be contacted.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. Now, is there a constitution by which the Jehovah's Witnesses internationally are governed?
I don't think I could answer that, but my understanding it's clearly just what the Bible has to say.
Because just seeking to address it for a moment from a legal perspective, what I understand from the statements is that one has a governing body operating in, or situated in New York, but having an operation, I suppose, throughout the world, and then branches in various geographic areas, and also congregations
Yes.
within the jurisdiction of each branch. That's right so far, isn't it?
Yes.
And in Australia, it said that each congregation is in a legal sense, voluntary association. Is that right?
Yes.
And yet the congregations take their direction and instructions from the branch, which in turn takes its direction and instruction from the governing body. That would be right, factually.
Yes, I think that's a reasonable.
So now, our operation of what legal rule or norm does that occur? In other words, by what legal rule or norm does the congregation take its direction from the branch? Is there a constitution, a contract, a corporation? Is there something that does it?
Not that I'm aware of.
So is it not the case that the governing body sets out what the roles and responsibilities of all the various structures are and their relationship to each other, and the whole system internationally is operated in accordance with that?
You're really talking to me about an area I don't have much experience in terms of that. I just work in a local branch. But I think in general terms, what you're saying, I would understand to be correct.
And is there a manual or a document published by the governing body which sets that out, what its responsibilities are, what the branch's responsibilities are, and so on?
I'm unaware of any such document.
So is there not, to your knowledge, a document which sets out the responsibilities of each of the governing body committees, for example?
I have no knowledge about that whatsoever.
And a document perhaps which sets out how members of branch committees are to be appointed?
I have no knowledge about that. I've never seen or heard of such things.
Can I just understand, are you the senior lawyer advising the Jehovah's Witnesses in Australia?
I'm not sure about senior, but I look after the legal department, but I'm being asked questions about things that I really haven't been involved in at all.
I know, but I'm trying to get to understand your relationship to the management structure in Australia and in New York, you see. And normally in an organisation, if there's a legal department and a head lawyer, then that person's services would be used to advise in relation to documents, the meaning of documents, the drafting of documents and so on.
Nothing. I've never been involved in any of the document types of situations that I'm being asked about at all.
Well, then who in the branch here holds the reins? Where does
The branch committee.
the committee? And how many people are on that committee?
Probably 9 or 10, but it might be, it's around that figure. I'm not actually so certain, but it's somewhere around that figure.
And is that their job, to be members of that committee, or do they have other roles in the organisation?
They are appointed members of the branch committee. They collectively serve together, but they would have administrative roles at the branch doing different things.
At the branch, though?
Yes, at the branch.
They're all people who work at the branch?
Yes, they're at the branch.
And is one of them the head, as it were, of the committee?
I think it's first among equals. I don't think anyone's head of the branch committee as such, but Mr. O'Brien cares for the coordination of that particular branch committee. But I don't think anyone has greater authority or lesser authority. If you remember the branch committee, I understand you're an equal member with the branch committee.
And the next step in the hierarchic organisation of the Jehovah's Witness from the branch committee is to where?
I think the branch committee goes back to the governing body.
In New York?
In New York. That's as I understand it.
Right. And do you know whether they have to provide a report to the governing body?
I've never been on a branch committee. I don't know what happens there.
You mean, you work as the Jehovah's Witness lawyer, but you have no knowledge of what...
I have never been involved in a report given that way because it's not a legal matter. Nothing's been ever been discussed with me about that.
And the branch committee members, Mr. Toole, are appointed by the governing body, is that right?
I understand that's the position, yes.
And you say your understanding is that the branch committee members are equals. One of them is actually designated coordinator. Is that not right?
Yes, I think he's the coordinator of the branch committee.
Yes, and that designation or responsibility also is an appointment by the governing body.
I believe so, but I'm not absolutely certain, but I believe so. I'm sorry I don't have a lot of information on that, but I've never been involved.
There are other copies coming shortly, but I'd just like to show you, there's a copy for you. I'd like to show you a document. You see, it's headed Branch Organisation, effective December 15, 1977, revised February 2003, and it's said to be, what says this material is Branch Organisation, sorry, this material in the Branch Organisation, being the name of the publication, should not be copied or duplicated except with permission of the Branch Committee. It's published in the USA, take it or understand it by the governing body. Have you seen this publication before?
No, I have not.
Do you know if this is the current edition?
I would have no idea.
Your Honour, I call for any revision or subsequent addition to the publication Branch Organisation.
Your Honour, we'll, until just then it wasn't called for, but I'll have a look.
Sorry?
I'll have an inquiry made about it if there are revisions.
Well, more than that, we'd like to know the answer.
Of course, Your Honour. Your Honour, without wishing to interrupt my learned friend's line of questioning, Mr. O'Brien is coming to give evidence today. It may be that some of these questions are best directed towards him.
Well, we'll let counsel take his course.
Of course, Your Honour. Understood. Your Honour, one final thing, if I may. Could I ask for a non-publication order in respect of that? I would assume that it is a very confidential document.
Well, you'd have to persuade me of that, Mr. Tockley. The Royal Commission, as far as possible, operates in public.
Understood, Your Honour.
And presently, I can't see why this document shouldn't be a public document, but you have to persuade me.
Thank you, Your Honour. I might take instructions over the morning break on that.
Well, I haven't tendered it yet, Your Honour, but I am grateful to my
Well,
learned...
I think we assume it's coming.
Yes, it is. I'm grateful to my learned friend in relation to what he says about Mr. O'Brien, because really that underscores the point that we really need, if there is such a document, a revision or updated version of this, we really need it during the course of the morning so that Mr. Bryan's evidence later in the day can serve some purpose.
Well, do you seek to tender it now?
There's no need to tender it right now, Your Honour. I'll allow my learned friend to take his instructions with regard to publication order or otherwise.
All right.
Now, can I take you, Mr. Toole, to paragraph 15 of your statement?
15?
15, yes. That's in tail 003. You'll see you say there, where the law does not require ministers of religion to report allegations of child abuse, the legal department has been instructed to direct the elders to clearly explain to the victim and or their families that they have an absolute right to report the matter to the authorities and that they should feel completely free to do so. So you say there, the legal department has been instructed to direct, and then you go on to say what you've been instructed to direct. Who gave that instruction?
Well, I understand that's just a branch committee direction in harmony with the directions we've been given.
So it's a, well, let's just clarify the terminology there. You say the branch the legal department has been instructed. So is that the case? The legal department has been instructed to direct, as you set out in that paragraph?
In harmony with the direction that we were given in that previous letter about reporting. My understanding clearly is that's the direction that we are expected to give whenever we receive a call in relation to this matter.
So it's the branch committee that's given that instruction to the legal department?
I understand in harmony with that letter.
All right. Are you in harmony with which letter?
The letter that's referred to just a little earlier, that one there, October the 1st, 2012.
And that's at tab 124.
And that certainly is our practice.
Well, can you identify where in the letter the legal department is instructed or directed to direct elders to clearly explain to the victim and or their families that they have an absolute right to report the matter to the authorities?
No, I can't, but it's in the spirit of what's being discussed there. It's always been my understanding that that's the direction that we're to give.
Well, Mr. Toole, just to be clear, you say in your statement that the legal department has been instructed to do something. I understand now you're shifting from that and you're saying that that's in the spirit of this letter. It's not an instruction, is that right?
We don't have a written instruction to do that, no, if that's what you're asking.
Well, you don't have any instruction, do you?
Well, we've been informed that's what we should be advising people when they call.
Isn't it the case that the legal department advises on legal obligations to report or otherwise, and then with regard to other matters, the call from the elders is then passed on to the service desk?
I've been taking these calls for pretty well exclusively now for the last 2 or more years. The direction I give specifically when someone calls in, we discuss the matter as far as any mandatory reporting obligations that may apply. And then I make a particular point. I say, now, if the mandatory reporting obligation doesn't apply in a certain state, I say, I want two elders to go back to the victim or their family and explain to them very clearly that they have the absolute right to be able to go and report this matter to the authorities. That's their privilege, and they need to understand that, and that you will support them in whatever decision they make. That's the instructions I give every time.
So that's your practice as opposed to being something you've been instructed to do?
Well, I haven't received formal instructions, that's what I'm saying, but that's what I understand clearly we're being asked to do.
And you say you've done this exclusively for, did you say 2 years or 2.5 years?
Yeah, about approximately 2 years. I've been taking the calls myself.
And these are calls about allegations of child sexual abuse?
Yes.
And how many such calls have you taken in that period, would you estimate?
I couldn't tell you, but we probably get 3, sometimes 4 a month.
And in respect of any of those, did you take the view that mandatory reporting requirements applied and therefore that the elders concerned had an obligation to report?
Yes.
And in respect of which states would those be?
South Australia and Victoria.
Now, I'd like to refer you to the Shepherd the Flock of God handbook, that's tab 120. And in particular, at page 133. paragraph 22. Ringtail 134. Page 133, that's right. Under the heading Taking Brothers to Court. Now, you're familiar with this section of this handbook, I take it, Mr. Toole?
Reasonably familiar.
And there's a strong scriptural message or scripturally based message here in these paragraphs 22 and 23, isn't there, against the referral to secular authorities of disputes.
This is entirely civil matters,
Yes.
nothing to do with criminal.
Well, this is what I wanted to come to. Is it not the case, though, that, well, I withdraw that. What is the basis for you saying that that's entirely civil and not criminal?
Well, this is dealing with situations where people have personal differences. Maybe there's a difficulty with work. Maybe there's a situation with defamation, or situations that people may well have a dispute with each other. And so the admonition is, well, why not apply scriptural principles to try and resolve the matter? But it has there, and if you go on a little further, it actually speaks about there are some things that, even though they are personal matters, civil matters between individuals, they're the kind of thing that the congregation has no authority or no jurisdiction to be able to adjudicate on. Things like custody matters, probate matters and things like that. So it's just dealing with issues that exist between individuals, but certainly not criminal matters in any way, shape or form.
You would appreciate that, if not all, certainly in most circumstances that might give rise to a criminal charge, a civil wrong would also have occurred, which might give rise to a civil claim or dispute.
Well, that's potentially possible, yes.
Yes. Well, let's be more specific. In the case of a sexual abuse allegation, that may give rise to both a criminal charge and a civil claim.
All I can tell you is that that particular scripture does not prevent...
Well, it's going to help us if you just answer my question. I'm not talking about the scripture. I asked you a very specific question, which between you and I as lawyers, we should be able to discuss and find common ground quite easily. What I said to you is, in the case of a sexual abuse allegation, the facts of the allegation may give rise to both a criminal charge and a civil claim.
Yes, potentially.
So a person who's been abused would have an issue with, or a dispute with their abuser, which might give rise in the law to two matters to be resolved, one criminal and one civil.
Potentially, yes.
And is it not the case then that, absent any clear guidance to the contrary, that publishers who have access to this information like this would understand it to mean that their dispute, which arises from a sexual abuse allegation, is not to be referred to the courts,
No,
whether that's the criminal component or the civil component?
No, I completely disagree.
Well, you would have heard, well, I withdraw that. Did you follow the evidence in the commission last week?
Yes.
Particularly of the two survivors, BCB and BCG,
Yes.
gave evidence?
Yes, I did.
So you will have heard BCB give evidence that she was taught that these passages applied equally to criminal complaints.
I did hear her say that.
I can tell you paragraph 16 of your statement. The quote that you have in that paragraph says that there is no obligation on elders to report if the law does not oblige it.
This is paragraph 16, did you say?
Yes, that's right. So where the law does not obligate elders to report cases that come to their attention, there is no need for them to do so. But if the matter becomes known to the authorities, they must cooperate, and so on. Or it doesn't actually say that they are required to disclose information they have in their possession, that they will do so unless they can claim ecclesiastical privilege. Now, as I understand it, and since you're the one who advises on reporting obligations, perhaps you can confirm, within the Jehovah's Witness view of things, in the absence of a legal obligation to report to authorities, whether police or child protection authorities, there's no moral obligation to report. Is that right?
Elders do not have the scriptural authority to take away the right of an individual to decide whether or not they want to pursue the matter or not. They have the right to make a decision in terms of their own best interests.
Well, you'll appreciate, Mr. Toole, that there are often circumstances in which an individual can't exercise such a right, such as a child, for example, whose parent, for whatever reason, doesn't exercise that right of reporting on their behalf.
Well, their guardian parent would be perfectly entitled to decide what's in their best interests.
And if their guardian parent did not report or told the elders, I'm not reporting, by reason, for example, if she doesn't want the abusing father to be charged and potentially go to jail, but the child remains at risk, would that not, within the Jehovah's Witness view of things, give rise to a moral obligation on the elders to report in order to protect the child?
And that's why they contact the service department and they discuss the whole situation and work out how best to be able to protect the child. There might be a whole lot of other avenues that the service department, in conjunction with the local elders, can discuss about how that's to be done. But at the end of the day, if you go back to an article that we have published in 1985, it says when you hear a report of child abuse, whatever is necessary to be done needs to be done to protect the child.
So would it be right that in some circumstances there would be a need for elders to report to the authorities?
There may well be, yes.
And you see then where this quote says there is no need for the
Yeah, Dr. Jason Morrison, theologist again. I just want to say thank you for watching the videos, and I hope you got plenty of self-rediscovery and freedom out of it. If you watched it on YouTube, please share or like, maybe even comment. If you watched it on Facebook, like, comment, share. But most of all, get out and live. This isn't a rehearsal. You've got a one-off life. Don't let your loyalty and your faithfulness blind you to the life that you should be experiencing. Till the next video, thank you for watching, and bye for now.